At 6:12, on the morning before my daughter's wedding, my phone lit up. Care, partner noticealize, Coles 1000 A.M. Session was canceled from a new device. I called her twice. Her fiancé answered and said, "She doesn't need therapy today. She needs to become my wife without another panic spiral." Then he told me to stay in my lane and hung up. Ross Kincaid believed I was only a 66-year-old furniture repairman with a bad knee and sawdust under his nails. He did not know why I wrote down the exact time, or why new device frightened me more than the cancellation. By the time we entered the conservatory signing room, he would learn what the portal had preserved, and my daughter would decide whether the wedding could survive it. If someone you loved asked you not to interfere, would you wait or verify the warning? Tell me below. And subscribe for stories where quiet evidence gives people back their choice. The alert made sense only because of a promise Elise and I had made 11 months earlier in a hospital parking garage that smelled of rain and hot concrete. Her mother, my wife Rebecca, had been gone for 4 years by then. Ovarian cancer took her in 14 months and left behind a lake cottage, a blue recipe box, and 2 people who had mistaken functioning for healing. I returned to my workshop 3 days after the funeral. Elise returned to her design firm after a week. We told each other that work was useful. What we meant was that silence at home had become unbearable. My Knoxville shop sat behind a narrow brick storefront. The sign said, "Cole Restoration" in letters Rebecca had painted herself. I repaired church pews, table, and the occasional rocking chair someone could not bear to discard. My left knee stiffened before rain. Ross crawled. My work, sentimental carpentry. I let him, for 27 years before the shop, I worked for Tennessee's Office of Inspector General, ending as director of a small unit handling medical identity misuse and coercive access to patient records. Most days meant frightened families, audit logs, and never claiming more than evidence could hold. I retired after Rebecca's diagnosis and hid my commendation beneath shop invoices. I wanted Elise to have a father, not a man studying her like a case. Elise was 32, quick-witted, and gifted at making abandoned spaces feel inhabited again. She designed libraries and community centers for a regional architecture firm. After Rebecca died, Elise inherited the lake cottage through a trust Rebecca's attorney had written to keep it in Elise's sole name. She never bragged about the cottage. She went there to repaint window frames and drink coffee on the dock where her mother used to read. Ross entered her life at a Chamber of Commerce fundraiser. He arranged commercial loans, wore quiet gray suits, and remembered the names of servers. At first, his attention looked like care. He sent a car when Elise worked late. He compared insurance plans when she was too tired to read them. He made restaurant reservations and carried peppermint tea because she sometimes felt nauseated in crowds. After their engagement, his helpfulness hardened by degrees too small to name. He answered questions directed at her. He called her forgetful when she corrected him. He began keeping the shared calendar because, he said, details triggered her anxiety. If she arrived at my shop without warning, he texted before she had taken off her coat, "Just checking you got there safely." The messages always said, "The miscarriage came 9 months before the wedding." Ross called it a setback we can move past. Elise had not yet found words for the difference between moving and being pushed. 3 weeks later, she had a panic attack on the interstate. She pulled onto the shoulder and called me because Ross was presenting to a client. I found her gripping the steering wheel, unable to feel her hands. At the emergency department, a social worker named Dana Patel helped her breathe until the room stopped narrowing. Dana later became her therapist at Harbor Ridge Behavioral Health. Elise added me as a limited portal care partner, not to read notes, schedule treatment, or speak for her. If an appointment was canceled, moved, or accessed from a new device, I received a duplicate notice. She chose it because missed sessions were an early sign that she was withdrawing. If I start disappearing, she told me in the parking garage, don't chase me. Just knock. I wrote the sentence in a small red notebook from my investigation days. Ross once found it beside my coffee and laughed. "What is that?" "Your old man evidence book. Measurements." I said. The next page held cabinet dimensions. The page after that held the date Ross began driving Elise to appointments. The wedding was Saturday at Riverstone Conservatory. A separate noon signing came before the photographs because Ross had assembled a marital organization packet insurance forms, emergency contacts, and an agreement about household expenses. 3 details stayed with me. Ross insisted on the venue instead of an attorney's office. He said Elise needed no independent counsel because the papers were administrative, not adversarial. When I offered Rebecca's brass cottage key as something old, Ross took it from my palm for safekeeping. I watched him slide it into his inside jacket pocket. 2 days later, at the family brunch, he crossed the first line I could no longer pretend was merely good organization. The brunch filled a private hotel room near Market Square. Elise's future in-laws discussed seating charts while Ross moved between tables with a tablet. Elise arrived 12 minutes late. Her hair was damp, and the concealer beneath her eyes had gathered in pale crescents. When I stood to hug her, she held on longer than usual. "Did you sleep?" I asked. "Enough," Ross answered from behind her. She stayed up revising vows that were already fine. Elise looked down. "I wanted them to sound like me." "They do now," he said, touching the back of her neck. The gesture could have looked affectionate from across the room. Up close, I saw his thumb press until she stopped speaking. During coffee, Dana's office called. Elise's phone vibrated beside her plate. She reached for it, but Ross turned it face down. "Not today," he said. "It could be about tomorrow's session." Exactly. No more emotional excavation before the wedding. The room quieted. Ross's mother stirred her tea. His best man studied the menu. Elise gave a thin laugh. "Dana just wants to check in." Ross slipped the phone into his pocket. "And I want 1 week where our life isn't run by Dana." I placed my cup down. "Give her the phone." He looked at me with almost pleasant surprise. "Nathan, this is between Elise and me. The phone is hers." Elise whispered, "Dad, please." The warning was aimed at me. Ross had built the moment, so my resistance became the disruption. He returned the phone, but watched until Elise put it away without checking the call. Then he leaned toward me. "You restore chairs," he said quietly. "I manage risk. Let's each do what we understand." "Risk to whom?" I asked. His smile tightened. "To the wedding." After brunch, Elise found me near the elevators. Ross was downstairs settling the bill. She pressed her fingers to her temple. "You made that worse? Did you want him to take your phone?" "I wanted one meal without a confrontation." "That is not the same answer." She flinched. I hated myself for sounding like an interviewer. I softened my voice. "Did you ask him to manage tomorrow's therapy appointment? We talked about keeping the week calm." "Did you ask him to cancel it?" The elevator opened. She kept one hand against the door. "I don't know what I asked anymore," she said. Ross rounded the corner. Elise removed her hand, and the doors closed. That afternoon, I delivered a restored oak lectern to Riverstone. Venue manager Celia Morris led me through the signing room tall windows, a long table, and chairs for both families. The notary and Ross's advisor. On the table sat 6 cream folders, stamped Kincaid Cole Family Plan. "Mr. Kincaid is organized," Celia said. "Who arranged the notary?" "His office. He moved the appointment from 3 o'clock to noon this morning. Said the bride gets overwhelmed later in the day." "Did Elise approve the change?" Celia checked her tablet. "The email came from him. He copied her." Copied was not consent. As I adjusted the lectern, Ross entered with Nolan Graves, an associate from his lending firm. They did not see me behind a partition. "The signatures happened before hair and makeup," Ross said. "Once guests start arriving, her father becomes a problem." Nolan lowered his voice. I could not make out his response. Ross laughed. "Nathan is a man who fixes scratches." Hand him a seating chart and he'll feel important. I stepped out before they said more. Lingering would have produced suspicion, not usable evidence. Ross did not look embarrassed. He handed me a folded printout. Perfect timing. Can you post this in the rehearsal hall? The schedule read noon, family document signing. 1230, bridal medication and rest. 100 phone held by coordinator. What medication? I asked. Something her doctor approved. Which doctor? His eyes cooled. You are not her medical proxy. He was right. Limited portal notices gave me no control or access. He expected concern to make me overreach. I handed back the schedule. Then Elise can explain it. That evening, she came to my shop for Rebecca's blue recipe box. Reaching across the bench, she exposed 4 half-moon marks where her fingernails had broken her palm. Ross says Dana keeps me stuck. She said, he says married people shouldn't need an outsider to interpret every disagreement. What do you say? I say I'm tired. Her phone chimed. She read the message, and her shoulders drew inward. I have to go. Elisa. What is the marital organization packet? Budget forms. An emergency contact change. Something about putting the cottage into an LLC so repairs are easier. Rebecca's key was in Ross's pocket. The cottage belonged solely to Elise. Therapy was being called disloyalty. Not proof. But a shape I recognized. At the door. Elise turned back. Please don't investigate my life. I won't. I said, but if something knocks, I'm going to answer. At 6:12 the next morning, the portal alert knocked. After Ross hung up, I neither drove to the hotel nor called police. A canceled appointment was not an emergency dispatch. I wrote the alert's exact language, time, and called number. Then I sent Elise one text. I received a care partner cancellation notice from a new device. I will not access anything without you. Text safe if you want me to wait. Text knock if you want help verifying. 8 minutes passed. Then one word appeared. Knock. We met behind my workshop. Beyond cameras linked to Ross's security account, Elise arrived by rideshare. Terrified and embarrassed. As though fear were bad manners. I didn't cancel. She said, I did not cancel my appointment. What do you want to do? Find out how. On a clean laptop, Elise signed into the portal. Her password failed. The recovery screen showed that multi-factor authentication had been changed 3 weeks earlier from her number to a phone ending in 4,418. Ross's work cell, she said. Elise called support and completed identity verification while I stayed silent. She uploaded her license and requested a security freeze. Harbor Ridge Privacy Officer Monica Reyes joined the call. Ms. Cole, I can confirm 6 successful logins from a device not previously associated with your account. I can also confirm 5 appointment changes over the last 4 months. I cannot attribute a person to those logins today. We can preserve the audit records while we investigate. Elise stared at the screen. 5. She had believed Dana was reducing sessions because she was improving. Instead, each cancellation followed an argument with Ross, a visit to me, or a cottage discussion. One followed Ross, calling grief therapy loyalty to a dead household. Another followed Dana's suggestion that Elise keep her own transportation. A third followed her refusal to add Ross to the cottage trust. The next came when he announced their move to Nashville. The last was that morning. The alert had not uncovered one impulsive act. It had revealed a method. Monica said a male caller twice claimed to be Elise's representative. Staff refused because no authorization existed. 11 minutes after the second call, portal recovery settings changed using a code emailed to Elise and read on their shared tablet. Can you tell us the network location? I asked. Monica paused. Who is speaking? Nathan Cole. I am listed only as the limited care partner. Another pause. Mr. Cole. Your name is familiar. It does not need to be. Elise is the patient. Monica respected the boundary. She offered Elise an audit summary. preservation of technical records. In a same-day session at another office, Elise agreed. Before the call ended, Monica asked one question required by clinic policy. Do you feel safe returning to the hotel? Elise's mouth opened, but no sound came out. I did not answer for her. Finally, she said, I don't think he'll hit me. I think he'll make me believe this was my fault. Monica replied, safety includes your ability to make decisions without fear. After the call, Elise cried beside a half-restored cedar chest. I gave him my email password after the miscarriage. She said, he said he would handle bills until I could think again. Trusting someone is not permission forever. I defended him to Dana. I defended him to you. That does not make you responsible for what he did with your trust. Ross called. She let it become voicemail. Elise, your father is escalating again. I canceled one session so you could rest. Come back before he ruins the weekend. If you miss the signing, we lose the financing window on the cottage project. Elise looked at me. What financing window? I knew better than to interpret. Ask for the documents. She texted Ross, send me the full family plan and all cottage papers. I will review them with my own attorney. His reply came almost immediately. We agreed no lawyers. They make simple things hostile. Elise typed, I did not agree to that. The typing indicator appeared, vanished, then returned. You're spiraling. Your dad knows how to trigger you. At the emergency session, Dana asked Elise to identify decisions she remembered making without Ross in the room. The list was painfully short. She had chosen the flowers. She had chosen the song for Rebecca. She had not chosen the move. The account consolidation, the sales schedule for her condominium, or the plan to put the lake cottage into Kincaid Residential Holdings. Do you want to cancel the wedding? Dana asked. Elise shook her head, then nodded, then covered her face. I want enough time to know whether the answer is mine. She was not ready to leave him. She was ready to stop the signing. When we returned to the shop, a delivery driver was waiting with a cream folder from Ross's office. Across the front, in black letters, was written, for Nathan Cole, father of the bride tasks. Inside lay the seating chart, a vendor checklist, and a sealed envelope labeled Bride's Signature Copies Do Not Open. Ross had put the papers he wanted signed into my hands because he believed obedience and simplicity were the same thing. I carried the sealed envelope to Elise. This belongs to you, I said. She broke the seal. The first page was not an insurance form. It was a durable financial power of attorney, effective immediately. The document named Ross as Elise's agent for banking, real estate, and digital accounts. Another transferred her cottage to an LLC managed by Ross to support a renovation loan already under review. Elise had never applied for that loan. Near the bottom of the power of attorney, a yellow flag marked the signature line. Beside it, in Ross's handwriting, were the words, "Sign before McCup, no time for questions." Elise had not signed, so Ross could call them drafts, but the packet connected therapeutic isolation to financial control and relocation. I need an attorney. Elise said. I called Miriam Shaw, who had handled coercive access cases before I retired. Elise spoke to her directly and sent the packet herself. Miriam's advice was simple: do not sign. Secure the trust. Change passwords from a clean device. Do not confront Ross alone. A terrible draft is not a completed crime. Preserve everything. Let him respond in writing. We photographed each page and stored copies under Elise's control. Monica's audit confirmed dates, devices, authentication changes, and cancellations. It did not name Ross. The phone number and timing formed a link, not a verdict. The rehearsal was 4 hours away. Relatives had flown in and deposits were gone. Every practical detail became a weight Ross could use. If I stop this, she said, everyone will know I failed. A canceled wedding is an event. A controlled life is a system. You make it sound easy. No, I make it sound expensive in the right direction. She looked toward the bottom drawer where I kept my old commendation. Is this how you talk to people at your old state job? Sometimes. I said, did you ever get it wrong? 15 years earlier, a woman reported that her husband controlled refills and canceled appointments through her account. She asked us to wait until she had somewhere safe. I waited for cleaner proof. 3 days later, he emptied their account and moved her away. She later told me, you were so careful with the file that you forgot I was living inside it. After Rebecca died, I avoided questions that might make Elise feel investigated. I called it respect. Some of it was fear she would choose Ross and close the door. Yes. I told her, I have waited too long. I have also moved too fast. Both times. I was deciding for someone because I was afraid. What are you afraid of now? Losing you while trying to keep you. Elise closed her eyes. When she opened them, her voice was steadier. Then don't cancel anything for me. Don't call the venue. Don't call Ross. Help me get the truth into one room. And let me decide there. That became our rule. Miriam would attend as counsel. With Elise's release, Monica could explain only the portal audit by secure video. Celia preserved the scheduling emails. Notary Helen Brooks confirmed Ross's office wanted signature flags and no separate counsel. Each person would answer only within her role. Elise then wrote Ross an email. I will attend the signing tomorrow. I am bringing counsel. Do not access my medical, email, or financial accounts. Do not cancel or change any appointment. Please confirm you understand. Ross called 11 times. His emails moved from, you are exhausted. Let me protect you, to your father is exploiting your grief. And finally, if you embarrass me, do not expect protection from what people say about your instability. That last message changed Elise's face. Fear remained. But shame began to detach from it. He keeps saying protect. She whispered. When he means control. She chose to attend the rehearsal. Not to preserve the wedding, but to ask one direct question before people Ross respected. I drove separately with my red notebook and Rebecca's spare key at Riverstone. Ross greeted guests as though nothing had happened. He kissed Elise's cheek and whispered something that made her go still. She did not ask me to intervene. Then Ross raised a champagne glass. Tomorrow, he announced, Elise and I begin a life with no secrets, no outside interference, and no voices between us. His family applauded. Elise did not, she asked, clearly enough for the nearest tables to hear. Did you change the security number on my therapy portal? Ross smiled as if calming a child. We are not doing this here. Did you? He steered her toward the side hall. I followed at a distance. In the side hall, Ross released Elise only when he noticed Celia watching from the reception desk. You gave me access, he said, to help with bills after the miscarriage, not to cancel therapy. Dana was making you suspicious of me. 5 sessions. Ross. His jaw moved once. 5 interruptions. There is a difference. I stayed near the doorway. He turned on me. This is what you wanted. Isn't it one more crisis where she runs to Dad? She asked you a question, and she will understand the answer when she is rested. Elise stepped back. You don't get to postpone my understanding. He lowered his voice. Come upstairs. We'll talk privately. No. The small word altered the room. Ross cared about the audience more than the answer. He said they would discuss it after the toast and return to the ballroom. Elise left with Miriam. Ross found me retrieving Rebecca's recipe box. Tomorrow, you will sit through the signing. He said, you will keep your opinions to yourself. And then you will walk her down the aisle. If she asks me to, she will. Elise needs structure. By Monday, her appointments, accounts, and travel will all run through one system. Mine. After a month away from you and that therapist, she'll be herself again. You think isolation is treatment? I said, I think weak people get stronger when nobody rewards the weakness. At 1003 that night, Ross mistakenly emailed me, instead of Nolan Nathan won't understand the folder structure. Have him print the public schedule only. Keep transition plan private until she signs. Below the message was a shared drive link. I did not open it. I forwarded it to Elise and Miriam. Miriam preserved the original headers before Elise authorized any access, so the wrong recipient message could not be confused with permission to search. Elise then opened the link herself. The shared drive displayed Ross's files under Kincaid Residential Holdings. The central document was titled Elise Transition Plan First 90 Days. Week 1 Transfer Cottage Interest and Investment Reserve. Change all emergency contacts to spouse. Pause Harbor Ridge Services. Week 2 Submit resignation letter to design firm. List condominium. Relocate primary residence to Nashville. Weeks 3 through 12 Limit unplanned family visits. Husband to review emotionally activating correspondence. Evaluate whether continued contact with Dana or Nathan supports marital stability. Attached were a resignation letter in Elise's name and a draft email to me. Dad. Marriage means Ross comes first now. Please do not contact me unless he confirms it is a good time. I didn't write that. Elise exported the folder, preserving dates, authors, and revisions. Ross was creator. Nolan had commented, need POA before lender will rely on her reserve account. That connected the therapy cancellations, the account access, and the unsigned papers to a time plan. Miriam remained careful. These files show intent. We still need independent verification of the portal link. Monica called at 1040. Arbor Ridge matched the new device to Ross's earlier denied proxy access request. Monica could state that the same device later entered Elise's account using her credentials. There was more. Elise's settings revealed a 3-month-old rule, forwarding messages containing portal, Harbor Ridge, appointment, or Dana to Ross's work address, and archiving the originals. Elise had not created the rule. History showed it was added from their shared tablet while Elise attended her mother's memorial. Tomorrow, I want every document on the table. She said, I want his parents there. Nolan, the notary, Celia. I want Monica on the screen. Not because I need a crowd to leave him, because he has used the crowd to make me doubt myself for 2 years. What do you want me to do? I asked. Tell the truth about who you are if it becomes relevant. Nothing more. I removed my state commendation and expired identification card from the bottom drawer. Neither gave me authority, but my name on Monica's training manual explained why I recognized the alert and preserved the logs. Unsigned. Ross sent one final text to Elise. Noon. Sign first. Questions after. If your father causes a scene, security will remove him. Elise showed me the screen. He still thinks you're the problem. That may be the last safe belief he has. At noon the next day, we entered Riverstone's signing room. Ross was already seated beneath the tall windows. Rebecca's brass key placed beside his folder like property he had acquired. 14 people filled the signing room. Ross sat with his parents and Nolan. Notary Helen Brooks arranged her journal. Celia guarded the doors. Miriam sat beside Elise. While Monica appeared on a monitor, Dana was absent. Therapy was not a performance. I sat 3 seats away. Ross glanced at Miriam's briefcase. This was supposed to be family. It is. Elise said, that is why I brought someone whose duty is to me. Elise's hand trembled. I am nervous, she said. I am also informed. Ross pushed the cream folder toward her. Then sign the emergency contact form, and we can discuss the rest after the ceremony. Miriam opened the folder. This is an immediate financial power of attorney, a cottage transfer to Mr. Panagay, Kincaid's LLC, an account consolidation for a proposed loan. Ross's father turned toward him. You said this was household paperwork. Miriam is using adversarial language. Legal documents survive soft language, she said. Ross looked at Elise. We planned this. She met his eyes. Tell me when. At home. Name one date. I don't keep transcripts of our marriage. We are not married. The correction landed harder than a shout. Elise placed Ross's sign before makeup. No time for questions email beside the unsigned power of attorney. Did you write this? Ross read the note. A reminder. You overthink when you're rushed. You created the rush. He turned to the room. This is exactly what happens when therapy teaches someone to view support as control. Monica said. With Ms. Cole's authorization, I confirm 5 appointments were changed from a new device. That device earlier made Mr. Kincaid's denied proxy access request. Ross stood halfway. You are discussing private medical information in public. Only account security at the patient's request. Monica said, no treatment content. Elise placed the portal audit on the table. Did you use my credentials? You gave me access. Ross said, did you cancel the sessions? His father whispered, answer her. Yes. He said, because every time you talked to Dana, you came home hostile. Hostile. Or able to disagree, Elise asked. Ross sat back down. This is a trap. It is a question. Miriam displayed the forwarding rule that diverted portal messages to Ross's work email. Nolan stared at the page. Ross. Why was company email receiving patient messages? For the loan file, Miriam slid the transition plan toward Nolan. His own comments were visible in the margin. Did Ms. Cole approve this? Miriam asked. Ross said she had. Nolan replied, I never spoke with her. He entered the cottage and her reserve on a preliminary loan worksheet. I assumed she knew. Elise read the 90-day schedule. Pause therapy. Submit resignation. List her home. Relocate. Filter correspondence. Limit family visits. Ross's mother cried. You said she wanted a clean start. He wrote a resignation letter in my name. Elise replied. Ross reached across the table for the document. His hand closed over Elise's wrist. Celia stepped forward. Release her. I stood but did not cross the table. Elise had asked me not to take the decision from her. Elise looked down at his hand. Let go of me. Now, she said. He released her. Celia signaled security, who stood near Ross without touching him. Ross rubbed his forehead. You all see what Nathan has done. He built a case because he never accepted me. I opened the red notebook. Elise requested the audit, opened the folder, and hired counsel. Harbor Ridge preserved records. Nolan identified his comments. Nothing here depends on whether I like you. Ross laughed. You expect us to take forensic lessons from a cabinet maker? Monica leaned closer to her camera. Nathan Cole led the state team that trained our system on coercive portal access. Monica said. His unit helped design the alert that exposed these changes. Ross's expression emptied. Helen stared at me. Nathan Cole from the Hensley investigation. Retired. I said, my past does not prove what Ross did. I said, it explains why I knew not to touch Elise's account, not to open her documents, and not to answer for her. The proof came from systems he believed would stay quiet. Ross looked at Elise. He has always wanted you dependent on him. She shook her head. He asked me what I wanted. You wrote it for me. She removed her engagement ring. The ring clicked against the wood. There will be no signing. She said, there will be no wedding. I revoke every permission I ever gave you to access my accounts, devices, home, or records. Do not contact me except through Miriam. Ross's mother stood. Please don't decide your life in one frightened hour. I am not deciding in 1 hour. I am recognizing 2 years. Ross pushed back his chair. If you walk away, everyone downstairs will know you are unstable. Elise picked up the ring and placed it on top of the unsigned power of attorney. Then they can hear it from me. She opened the doors herself. Florists paused beneath the arch, as early guests turned toward the bride who was not dressed as one. Elise walked to the small platform where our restored oak lectern stood. I followed at a distance. Ross came behind us until the security officer blocked his path. Elise stepped to the microphone. "There will not be a wedding today," she said. "This is not a health emergency, and it is not a misunderstanding my father created. I learned that private appointments and messages were changed without my consent, and that financial documents were prepared for me to sign under pressure. I am safe. I am represented. I am choosing to leave." She gave no therapy details and invited no debate. Ross shouted from the doorway, "Tell them how many times you changed your mind this week." Elise gripped the sides of the lectern, the same oak I'd repaired, and answered without turning toward him, "Changing my mind is a right. Taking away the information I need to make it is control." That sentence ended the wedding more completely than any accusation I could have made. Security escorted Ross to collect his belongings. He was not arrested. Miriam advised Elise to report the digital access and restraint. Arbor Ridge opened an investigation, and Ross's employer placed him on leave after Nolan disclosed the company system misuse. Helen voided the notarial appointment. Miriam secured the originals, and Monica kept the portal frozen. Then I saw the brass key beside Ross's empty chair. I did not pick it up. Elise returned, saw it, and closed her hand around it herself. The first week after the canceled wedding was not triumphant. It was logistical, humiliating, and quiet. Guests changed flights. Caterers boxed food for a shelter. Elise returned gifts bearing both names. After 3 nights above my workshop, she leased a short-term apartment at a confidential address. I offered the lake cottage. Elise said no. "I need somewhere. Ross has never called ours." That answer hurt and relieved me. She was not moving from his management into mine. Harbor Ridge restored her portal after an in-person identity check. The audit added 6 attempted message deletions and the forwarding rule. Elise filed a police report. The officer documented the digital access, threats, and marks on her wrist. A judge granted temporary no-contact protection pending a hearing. Ross was not hauled away. Through counsel, he called it shared account management. Device records, his denied proxy request, and the forwarding destination challenged that claim. The investigation remained an investigation. His employer found portal messages in Ross's work account and the transition plan in a corporate drive tied to the proposed loan. The firm fired him for policy violations. Nolan was disciplined but gave a sworn statement about the timeline. I made no calls to former colleagues. My old title opened no doors. I knew a father's anger could contaminate a clean record. The cottage remained in Rebecca's trust. Elise changed her locks, froze hair credit, secured the trust records, and named a professional fiduciary as backup instead of me. When she told me, she watched my face. "Does that bother you?" "No. It would be easier to name you." "Easier is not always safer for a relationship." She nodded slowly. Dana said the same thing. Therapy resumed twice a week. This time, Elise drove herself. She kept me as a limited emergency contact for 30 days, then removed the duplicate portal alerts. I felt the loss. That narrow permission had made me believe I stood between her and disappearance. I learned that even a loving safeguard can begin to resemble ownership. Elise did not disappear. She sent texts when she chose. Sometimes they were serious. Sometimes they were photographs of badly assembled furniture in her temporary apartment, accompanied by the words, "Do not come fix this." I obeyed until she added, "Please." 3 weeks later, Ross's mother apologized, then tried to explain the pressure on her son. Elise declined. An apology that arrives carrying his excuse is still doing his work. She said, for 6 months, Ross's family could contact her only through Miriam and could not request reconciliation. Withdrawn reports. Or silence? Maybe she would reconsider later. Maybe was not forgiveness, it was a timed boundary. Some of my own boundaries came later. Elise asked why I hid my former work as we sat on Rebecca's dock with coffee. "I didn't want you to think I was measuring every person you loved." I said, "Were you?" "Sometimes. And when you saw something," I told myself, "respecting you meant staying silent." She touched the brass key. "Ask me direct questions. Do not build a secret file on my life. Agreed. You can tell me when you are afraid. That may be harder. Then practice. So I did. I am afraid you will forgive him because being angry exhausts you. She looked across the water. I'm afraid I will confuse missing him with being wrong. Neither fear became an instruction. We let them sit between us like two cups cooling in the morning air. At the protection hearing, Elise testified. Monica authenticated the audit. Provider records supported the forwarding history. Miriam introduced Ross's later messages. The judge extended no contact for 1 year without deciding the separate investigation. Ross's attorney asked whether my background had influenced Elise. Elise answered before Miriam objected. My father's background helped him recognize a warning. It did not cancel my appointments. Write my resignation. Redirect my messages. Or put Ross's hand around my wrist. I ended the wedding because I saw the pattern and chose not to live inside it. That was the only recognition I needed. Months passed. I finished the cedar chest from our first portal call and placed it in Elise's new apartment. Inside went Rebecca's recipe box, the trust copy, and the ring sealed for return through counsel. She did not throw the ring into the river. She did not need a cinematic gesture to make the ending real. On what would have been her 6-month anniversary, Elise came to the shop carrying lunch. She wore work boots and had paint on one sleeve. Her firm had promoted her to lead a public library renovation, the job Ross's draft resignation would have erased. We ate at the workbench. My red notebook lay near the vise. Are you still writing me down? She asked. I turned the notebook toward her. The last page held cabinet measurements, a grocery list, and one sentence, ask, do not assume. She read it and smiled. Then my phone chimed. For an instant? My body returned to 6, 1, 2 on the morning before the wedding. I saw the alert, the canceled session, and the narrow corridor between protection and control, but the screen held an ordinary text from Elise. Sent while she sat 3 feet away. Therapy at 10. Lunch after my choice. To tell you, I looked up. Lunch sounds good. I said. She pocketed her phone. The alert that saved her had arrived because a system refused to forget. The message that told me she was healing arrived because my daughter chose to send it. That difference was the dignity we had both needed to learn. Some warnings ask us to act. Love asks us to preserve the other person's right to choose the action. If you have ever had to protect someone without taking over their life, share the boundary you learned to keep. Subscribe for more stories about quiet evidence, hard choices, and families where trust must be earned rather than assumed.